Hi everyone, Ron here of Variable Plane. Welcome to LarongAtin. Variable Plane.
Yeah.
Hi. So, good evening everyone. It's a full cast tonight. There's of us on stream. So I have here to my left, Sir
Right.
Freddy,
Hello. Good evening.
and then below him is Mikey, and then below me is Nico and Aya.
Hi.
Hi. Lian said he was first. Hi, Lian. He's a fellow WoW TCG player of mine.
Look at the
Morgan says hello, and Kio says hello.
Hi, Morgan. Hi, Theo.
All right. Ngayong gabi.
Huh?
Ngayong gabi sa inyong tanan. That's
Okay.
I know a little, like very
Pala.
few. Like I know I can sort of understand Bisaya a little bit because my grandfather was from Bohol.
My mom is also watching.
Okay, all right.
Also
Let's feature that in. So, Tita
Dumati ang barangay.
Marichu, happy to see you both, Nico and Aya. Yay! Hello po.
Yan ang mga fans. Presidente
Yes,
ng
to
fans
support,
club.
di ba?
Ayan.
Yan.
Number one
Ngayong
supporters.
gabi. That would be cool, right? Maybe we should have like a stream like that. Like guest somebody like we have in Pilipintados. We have people from Iloilo. We have
Si Milo.
people from Cebu, from Davao. So maybe that's a no. Like it'll be an interesting episode. Or people will be talking about board games in their own dialect, and then we just sort of it's like you sort of explain. That would be cool to hear. Like, teach me how to play Love Letter in Bisaya.
Or like
In
also
local.
like if there are some terms that they regularly use to substitute
Right.
for
Yeah.
common game terms, right?
Yeah, that would be interesting. Like, is there like a worker placement for hey, all the way from the US?
Or I mean like
Well,
for Tagalog, like discard would be itapon, or
yes.
diba?
I
Or
know to
turn
see
is
guys.
tira, diba? Turn.
Ang round
Yeah,
ikot.
your turn.
Isang ikot.
Sang ikot.
Kung round
Yes.
Yeah.
ikot.
So it will be interesting because I know Nico and Mikey and Aya, you guys have actually done really designed rule books in Tagalog. I haven't done that.
Not
I
Nico.
I'm not sure if I
Well,
can do that.
Words.
Tsaka when you
Super effective.
once you've laid it out in Filipino and then you translate it into English, all these white spaces appear all over the manual.
Talaga.
Same instructions in Tagalog so much longer.
Yeah,
If actually if we're going to do something about translating, and I think we should get Tomas on board for that
Yeah,
episode.
that's true.
Kasi
I know
I-
Tomas did doble, right?
Yeah, he did
Or
double,
spotted.
and there's another thing he made na hindi pa lumalabas, and then
Okay.
maybe another one in the future.
All right.
So, siya yung go-to ko ngayon sa translations eh.
Nahirapan
Yeah.
ako. Pero
Go to in translating it to still like a local Filipino, but it would be interesting, right? If there is a need for like really, Bisayan translation,
Yeah.
if there's interest in that, and I'd love to see how our fellow gamers across the Philippines actually teach games. So Ven
Ooh,
says
then.
hi, Sir D,
Hi. Mhm.
and then Ruel is being
Ooh.
congratulated for his R&R episode. So I think Ruel, you have not yet slept, right? Or have you slept the whole day yesterday? Uh, because you guys just did a 24-hour run through, 24-hour marathon. All
Wow.
right. So today we will be our topic for today is actually something that kind of came out because in one of the forums people were asking like, hey, you know, what is it really involved about how to be a designer, what it's like to work as a designer, um, and people are even discussing in other forums for pricing, for costs, for salaries and all of these things. So Ruel said, I finally slept, thanks. It's now 6:30. Good morning.
Yeah.
This is your breakfast now. So these are the local designers here. So Kio is asking, what is dice in our local dialect in Filipino?
Just call it nice. No?
Dice din, I think.
Dice din.
I haven't thought
Really?
of a substitute.
Soy has been doing a lot of
Mm.
really
Research.
good research actually. There are so many games. If you guys haven't seen Soy's Pinoy
Mm.
Meeple episodes, so please do check that out. It's also here on our network. So he has done quite a bit of research. Morgan,
Discard.
actually, this one,
At
the guys
tapon, di ba?
actually
Tapon, ha?
tap
Oh,
on
tapon.
there.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
I just
Token
Google
is
translated
pamano.
dice, and it just translated it to DAIS.
Nice.
Dice.
Dice.
there you go. It is dice. It is dice.
Yun na yun.
and, and we are the board game silog of Ruel. All right. So we kind of thought about to the people in the to consumers. So before we became designers and Sir Freddy is a publisher and distributor. Before that, we were gamers, and from the outside, it just looked like I have a game on the shelf and I can buy it, and then that's it, right? Um, and Duvin says, this nadidistract ako, ilabay.
Ilabay.
Oh, I'm not sure if I even understood the Filipino of that, but I think that sounds pretty cool.
Baka nga Bisaya. Or
Sila.
Labay. Graveyard.
So going back, so it there are actually so many people involved in the the whole supply chain, and it's really a supply chain, right? Of from the design to publishers and so forth. So I kind of started something, and then probably what
Mhm.
we could do is try to um, complete this sequence. So can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yan.
Sorry, not yet, not yet. Let me add it. Okay,
Okay. Let's see.
Flowchart.
okay.
Okay.
And this is so Ron.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, there's code.
Well, don't mind the code. It's just me. It's just my simple way. So this is called in for the ones who know how to code. This is called the sequence diagram. So they're familiar, but it's basically just people or roles uh, and the flow of information in between. So in this case, what you're presenting. So as a designer, I normally would present my designs to publishers. But actually,
Mhm.
before that happens, right, you normally would first sort of prototype yourself, right? Oops, sorry.
Mhm. Mhm.
Designer,
Internal, you mean the internal development, internal
yeah,
design and development of
so
the game before even
develop
being
internal
in a
Mm.
state to be presented. Yeah.
Yeah. I think just going back to the So I think that the reason why this was brought up was in Unpub, some in the Unpub Philippine Facebook group. Someone was asking, like, just curious on um, what exactly would be the salary of, let's say, a game designer in the Philippines or in the industry.
In the
Yeah.
And
tabletop, specifically tabletop.
tabletop specifically, as because comparing to video games, because video game comparing to, let's say, a salary of a video game developer. And
Right.
I think um, from just from there, we have to change also the perspective first, because I think that most like game developers, game programmers are like an employee full-time job thing.
Yeah.
But for a game designer, usually it's better to think of it more of like an author, I guess. They're not really employed. It's most of the time you're not really a full-time employee. You earn from your design through royalties. It's not
Yes.
a job. So the game designer and the game programmer are not like analogs of each other. They're like
Yes.
completely different things. So maybe that's the first thing that you have to think about. It's not of game designers do get paid, but not in a job sort of way.
Mhm.
Right? Yeah. It's like more of an author type of thing.
Yeah, royalty, parang intellectual property, which is a hot topic recently. Sa,
Also another hot
gaming
topic
industry.
on different tabletop genres.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think just to sort of map it out and it just to sort of give people context. So here's a designer. So us, I'm a designer, and how long does it take for us to get to
Mhm.
you? So our design until it reaches
Your table.
your table.
Mm.
So it's kind of where we're trying to see how far it goes. So
To the
and
shelf.
and we can
IKEA to shelf.
correct. You guys can correct me along the way. So
Mm.
I kind of just place here. So you have the designer do internal development. Then when they're ready, they probably need to work with play testers as well. Hopefully they play tested.
They should. Yeah, yeah.
Dapat
So
lang yata.
still part of the internal development. And when they feel that they're ready, they would present their design to a publisher. If the publisher is happy with their design, they will offer them some sort of publishing contract. So,
I think what would be interesting also is to put there, like, designers usually exist as a collective, and then it's a quid pro quo thing that you playtest my game, I playtest your game, and these collectives have sort of, yeah, like Unpub PH, and there's other groups abroad,
right.
Design Lab. And you
I
have
know how
to,
to do that somewhere here. Hang on. There's a
because
code for that.
I think
There.
that would be like the first step, wherein the designers are, just workshopping their games as a collective, and which probably also happens as authors do it. Probably the same thing, writers.
Workshops.
Yeah, it's workshopping. A lot of creatives would workshop with each other.
Or parang show pitch with the writers around the table.
Yeah,
Okay,
Something like that, right? Where
and in
it's-
this process, a lot of ideas are killed. A lot of ideas are explored more. New ideas come out. So
Game jams,
Yeah.
di ba? Mga game jams.
Yep.
They often produce stuff as much as they kill
Hey,
them.
Marks.
Oh,
Let me bring in
pero
Marks.
siguro,
Marks,
for
ano to,
non-contractors.
hobby model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although in the hobby industry, there's commercial games. There's big companies. The big companies do have in-house game design teams, but those are the exceptions rather than the rule. Like for example, Wizards of the Coast and Games Workshop would have their in-house design teams,
Yeah.
but that's because they're continuously developing one game,
Yeah.
not tuloy-tuloy. So iba yung environment niya. So let's say a board game na talagang per project siya, hindi siya yung tuloy-tuloy. So you do one game and then that's it. And then siguro in the future it's an expansion, but paminsan yung expansion, uh, di ba, the gap between base sets and expansions is malaki. So it could be years in between. So hindi siya regular na tuloy-tuloy na trabaho. Unlike, let's say you're designing or for Magic or Warhammer, then it's a continuous process. So those are the exceptions rather than the rule.
And just because Sir Freddy mentioned that it's usually project based, I'd want to include that there's usually a project manager, at least in the case of the games that were published by Balangay. Wala pa ata dyan, yung project manager. Kasi kailangan na rin ng tao na magko-coordinate between the designers, developers, artists, just being on top of everything na hindi siya masa-stuck somewhere.
Okay, so we got publisher assigned sa isang project manager.
The publisher is actually a kind of broad term. Usually, yeah, they can, depends, I guess. They're kind of the person who, basta the game needs something, they have to fill that role. Especially with small time publishers. So sometimes the publisher is the project manager. Sometimes hindi din. It's really case to case.
Yeah. And the smaller the company, usually people will wear more hats. Ganun lang talaga yan. It's the nature of things. It's the nature of businesses.
Alam ni Mark yan.
Medyo ibang usapan pa kapag one-time contracted work eh. Parang meron talaga akong project manager to keep me in check kasi magbibigay ako ng proposed timeline. Pero iba yung timeline ko of playtesting. Iba yung timeline na Mikey, kailangan na namin yung game at this stage by this time kasi may training kaming gagawin. So, and that's a different kind of design approach pa.
Yeah. Dito na rin natin siguro ipasok yung there's two differences. Like we already mentioned the royalties and there's this thing called work for hire. Yeah. This is also pati sa comics industry there's things like this. It's called work for hire. So basically you're brought in on a contract for a specific project. And I think Mikey and Nico are familiar with this, di ba? Kasi I think a lot of your other projects which are not commercial are technically work for hire. The main difference with that is if it's work for hire yung relationship mo with the publisher or yung nag-contract sa inyo, then they'll own the game after that. Kasi nga work for hire siya. But if usually with the commercial side, it's usually royalties and the publisher and the designer keeps the rights to the game. So royalty based siya.
Yes.
So the publisher licenses the game design, and then the game, and that license only lasts for a certain duration. Then, and that's why like kunyari what like Agricola, diba, changed publishers few times. Fury of Dracula also changed. Kasi nag-end na yung licensing duration nun. So,
it's either a duration or a specific run. So, kung ilan copies, tapos kung gagawa ka ulit, that's another agreement.
Ron, medyo maliit na siya. So, baka hindi na siya. Baka
I realized that I'm gonna try to
medyo in the zone na si Ron sa coding.
Sorry naman po. Maybe just export.
We have a very interesting question yata in the comments from Louie.
Yeah. Sige. Let me just stop the share and then I can share the So let me share.
I think some people get the impression na full-time job ng designers in
No.
Most creative work is then authors and most creative work is done on the side.
Yeah. Hindi ako
I think
we can
ask,
don't quit your day job.
Jobs do game designers have?
Oh, one round.
So yeah, pretty much anything that you
Anything.
are,
Pays for the bills.
yeah,
Yeah,
anything that
whatever
will pay
pays
the
for the
bills,
bills.
pretty
Yeah.
much,
Yep.
because
Even publishing here in the Philippines, publishing tabletop games can't be your main
yes, it will not
occupation.
work.
Hindi pwede.
It will not
Talagang
feed the
even for me, it's a sideline. It can't be my day job.
oh,
I guess what we make from selling our games is being able to buy more games. That's it. We can't feed ourselves with that.
So abroad, it seems a lot of game designers are professors. I don't know why the connection though. But
I'm a
it seems like
teacher.
a lot.
I'm a
Yeah,
teacher.
a lot are parang mga college professors. Usually like yun, they would be in computer science or math. Like yun. Si Richard Garfield, I think, is a professor. I
Combinatorial
think
maths.
Rainer Nitsi is also a professor.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
Friedman Freeze, I think, is also a
yeah.
professor. So I think a lot of
Lahat ng
times
mga,
when you are very much into math
yeah.
and the systems, Will, for example, congratulations again, Will,
Oh yeah.
if you're watching,
Yeah,
for
Will.
getting that publishing deal as well as getting your game winning multiple awards. Nagpaka wingspan ng kanyang For
Mm.
Northwood na game sa dami ng awards niya. Pero yun, it's the love of systems, and that kind of drives where. So let me see if this is I know it's a lot readable, but I can zoom. I think. Oops,
Yes,
nope.
let's zoom
Eh,
in.
Zoom,
yeah.
zoom. Can I
So
move? Okay.
this
Wow.
also might explain why. So designers, if you're familiar with how much the royalties that designers usually get, some people are really surprised why how small it is. But if you can just look at this diagram, you'd see why. Because there's
Yeah.
just so many
So many
people
people involved.
So
all
yun, so
involved.
parang
They all have
just
to
to
get
sort of
something.
give a rough parang flow of how things. So as a designer, and we're now sort of talking with our experience with an international publishing setup. So Folded Wishes got published by B&B Games, and now also being published by Card Lords. So what was our journey? So as a designer, I was playtesting with my game groups and my friends and everybody else I can, um, you know, uh, sort of shoe in to test the game, even if I'm demoing in a convention and they're expecting to play a normal published game. I would stick my
Isingit.
game and just hope that it works for them. So after that sort of internal development, I got to present my design. So I presented it to Sir Freddy, and Sir Freddy was also presenting it to other publishers outside. So eventually, they said, "Okay, this is it, interesting," and they send me a contract. We're gonna um, take your game, and then notice na wala nang bumalik na araw sa designer. Okay? So wala na actually medyo halos konting-konti, like you're being informed, oh, we're now developing your game. So they go into a development state. Yun nga sabi ni Aya, there will be a project manager will be assigned, and some developers, my developers, a really good one, John Brigger, who did Lock Up and a lot of the games. Cartographers was one of his sort of developments. So he's really good in taking a system and really just, you know, morphing it to where it's best for the market. So they parang sabi nga na, I just recently listened to Dice Tower, and they had specifically this similar episode where they were talking about it. Developers are very different people from designers. They're very diverse skills, and you could say, for example, the one of the best developers out there is Rob Davio. So his expertise is to take games like Pandemic, turn it into a legacy game, and make it this super spectacular, world-changing event. Same thing with Forbidden Island, the whole restoration games. But he also did Seafall, which he tried to design himself. That one did fare well. So it kind of, you have these sort of different schools of thought. So developers will take your game and they will just keep developing it into a publishable state. There goes back place testing, finalizing the game. The publisher would be talking to different artists So notice that the art is actually a little bit later in the
Yep.
process,
Mhm.
because they would first really test out and iron out the system before they even invest on art, because art does cost money. And then
That's
they design rule books. Minsan, medyo late na yan kasi kailangan na siyang i-publish. So, minamadali na yung rule books.
Hence
So, kaya,
typos.
Hence
kaya hence
typos.
maraming mahirata ang mga rule books. So then the publisher would start to talk to um, factories or printers.
yeah.
Uh, the printers would have to create frames, plates if they need to, digital. They would have to code sort of the digital programs to
Mhm.
create the print run. They will map digital print first and send the publisher a copy of that. So parang we now have a physical version of that game, and then sort of give that final feedback and hope that they actually remember to incorporate that in the print and not miss the files. And then it gets approved and then it goes into print. So they go through the whole printing process. And
Yeah.
after the printing, we have now the shipping. So you got the shipper or carrier to on forwarder to forwarder to local distribution, on port, brokerage, customs, and then eventually to the warehouse. Finally, we have the distributors. So the distributors are talking to the publishers to take their game to be able to ano ba tawag dun, sir? Hindi siya license, no? Like you
Mhm.
really acquire
It's
units.
not it's basically uh, parang meron kayong deal na ikaw yung take care sa isang area
Isang
or
market.
region. Yes.
Yes. So a certain segment or market, depends kasi on the size of the region or market. If it's a country, for example, it's a lot smaller.
Yes.
So the sizing of this region is like this. But maybe in the US, you have multiple distributors because the market is also very large.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
So
distributors work with retailers. So the retailers acquire the from a sort of a sheet of all of the games that the distributor carries. They would tick off which ones they would order. Those they now put in their storefronts. And finally, you have your game that you can buy off the shelf or order in
Finally.
Amazon, whatever the case may be. All right.
yep.
So
Gotta
now,
prove
can you now imagine for a game of, let's say,
Mhm.
Splendor, 1,000, magkano ba Splendor again? 1,800, 2,000?
Let's say 2000.
Mga
Whatever.
around 2000 yun.
2,000. So, for every part in the process, how much does each person take for themselves for
Yeah.
the 2,000 pesos in the whole chain?
And that's kind of like the bare minimum list.
Yes.
There's gonna be so many
Oh,
other
yes.
people.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is
And
like,
maraming tao yun per step. It's not
oh,
Yes.
yes.
like just one person doing
It's not,
one thing.
Yeah.
So,
So
yun,
it
dun
really involves
sa,
a lot of people.
There's a guy in the factory who will just make sure that the print color is the ink is the right color. That's right.
yes.
He's the one mixing it. So
Yep.
yun lang
So
trabaho
when
niya.
I remember when I was working with the printers, kasi yun nga, that is true that when you are small, you kind of have to do everything yourself. So a lot of those roles you'll be doing yourself, but it actually doesn't fit well. So there were a lot of things when I did quotes and verses in the at the first time. You know, Sir Freddy and I were also very much studying how things work.
We
Umabot na
still
sa
are.
ano, may mga, well,
We
up
still
to now,
are.
yes. Uh, may mga wrong spelling, may mga hindi dapat na umabot doon na ano na items, so parang nandun siya. Kahit nga yung mga ano, may mga konting grammar or like commas na nawala, na parang, ba't natin
Dahil
nakalimutan yan? And even
pero
for the
dahil
color,
nga konting, there's very few people doing it and everyone's doing multiple things. Since ikaw na yung nagsulat nun, mahirap na ikaw rin yung nagche-check eh.
yes,
It's
yes.
not gonna work eh.
Yep.
So, even with some of the things we did with Balangay, meron mga mistakes na nakikita ko after it's already here na commercial copies na eh. Parang with the Elastic Man, there's may card na dumoble na why did I see that in the proof? Parang, wow, okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we
The
all saw
design I worked on didn't make it there kasi yung nadoble. Natanggal yung ginawa ko.
so may mga ganun eh. May mga ganun na parang you're just so excited to see it. Tapos hindi mo napansin, may nawala pala, may nagkulang.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's stuff like that. Yung mga typo, how will you spot your own typo?
Yeah.
It's really hard, di ba?
And then the whole coordination nga between the factories and publisher with the distributors and retailers. There's a lot of people really much involved. So what's really interesting is if you now try to subdivide, if you think about it, maybe there's like 100 people that were involved in the whole process. So if there's 100 people, 2,000 pesos, so they get 2 pesos each. Tama ba? 20 pesos each.
And I think
Yeah.
that doesn't even count, let's say, the rent of the
No,
retailer.
doesn't even
That's a really big
consider
cost.
rent.
So
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
May
actual
mga overhead
price.
cost lahat yan.
So
Yeah.
it really looks like it in a very small sprint run, hindi talaga siya pa kaya. Like so, Mr. Freddy has to also, as a business, has to make other businesses work in order for him to support this venture. Same thing with us. It's the same idea. This is not gonna. My prototype cost is higher. It's actually higher. My
Then the
prototype cost is
royalties.
higher.
Si
So-
Soy is asking something.
Yun. So I was asking, do we have local tabletop publishers?
Yeah, si Sir Freddy.
This person about
So,
Yes.
Balangay was a publisher
Yeah.
only for
Ay,
so we stopped
Darna.
publishing, but we did publish Resilience, Big Switch, and Darna. So
Darna.
Darna was the last one we actually published before Sir Freddy started to publish the games. And yun, kasi what happened was, so we designed Darna, we were designing. The year we published Darna, wala kaming nagawang bagong games kasi we were just focusing on the marketing, the distribution. Like so Darna was available in like mga national bookstores and fully booked. And it was practically me driving to each of those, every store. It's not like you drop it off in one store and they distribute it. No, you have to go to every single national bookstore. You have to go to their back rooms and hand it off to the people. So yun, just the fact that I had to do that, hindi na ako nakapag-design. So was that really the best?
I
use of
remember,
time?
Nico, you were even telling me that you guys were the one
putting
sort
the
of folding and
Oh, yeah,
packaging
yeah.
everything, right? And-
So when we got them, they were already packaged, but we were the
Paste
ones
the
making
stickers.
no, we didn't put the stickers. We were the ones who were
The
making display boxes.
Yeah.
putting the
Yeah.
ay yung booster
And
box.
And yun, whenever Sir Freddy orders more, I still have to like, okay, get some
There.
glue
rug.
and put it
Mark's
there.
was saying, we
Yeah,
assembled the
Mark.
boxes.
Si Mark yung nag-perfect ng process
Yeah.
on how to assemble the boxes. So yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I with Codes and Verses, we didn't even have the. So to answer Soy, we outsource them now because the technology for printing here is not as good. We don't have the large format printers that can pump out the quality that we need, and more importantly, cut. That is the most important missing piece. Cut to the spec that we need, and precisely keep that cutting process. So we had for Codes and Verses, I had to design the box, so it was like an origami. Didn't realize folded wishes pala yun. No, so it was an origami sort of style where we used the same cardstock as the box. We had to sort of figure out the fold. I was working with the the printer, to like we were experimenting with different folds inside to be able to support it, so that it would look nice on the shelf. Actually, when you open it and you don't like cover, the box would do this a little bit because it's not designed for it. So,
Buti nga yung first games nyo, may
hi, Doc
company.
Carlos.
Pawikan
Yeah.
Patrol,
Thank you
yung
for your
first 100,
service.
di ba? Yung first 150 niya, it was just wrapped in paper. The first 150 copies of Pawikan Patrol before Ludus came in was all wrapped in paper. Tapos all of the instruction manuals were done with my laser inkjet printer.
Yeah,
So,
and actually, we always joke that actually the box costs more than the cards inside.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
because that's
The
it's
box
just
is the most
the box is the most problematic and the most expensive part of the whole thing.
That's true.
Paano ba po
One of
nagpa-fan
the
sign?
I want to
Nagpapa-fan
share
sign po si Doc
uh,
Carlos.
one of the, I guess, most,
Mikey,
now in
kaya mo.
hindsight,
Nasanay
one
ka
of the
dyan.
most ridiculous things I've had to do was, so finally we were publishing, we're distributing to na National Bookstore and Hubs and Lands and Fully Book, and they needed barcodes, and we were like, that's too expensive. Because you can, so the barcodes, ayun, so yeah, we had to put the hologram stickers to show it,
Manually.
yeah, to show it's a legit product from
Yeah.
ABS-CBN. So the barcodes, you have a choice. You print your own barcodes, or you buy the barcodes from the retailer. Apparently, it's part of their service. They'll put it. You buy it, and we were like, our profit margins are so low. We can't afford barcode stickers. So okay, how are we gonna do this? We don't want to buy a barcode machine. So
Right.
it's like, okay, maybe we can just print the barcode on sticker paper. So we were researching, okay, how are we gonna do that? And then we found out so the barcodes have to be super exact. When you print on just cheap sticker paper, the ink will spread a bit by like a few millimeters. So
Yeah.
we had to generate the barcode, scale it up to 600 dpi, go into it, shave off 1 pixel length per stick, so that when it prints on the cheap sticker paper, it will spread just that little 1 pixel length, so that when it gets scanned, it will register properly. And we were
Oh
like,
my goodness.
oh, this is so much trouble just for that. And then we had to stick the barcodes ourselves. Then finally, the moment of truth, we had to go to like some random national bookstore and ask them to scan it, hoping that it would scan properly, and it did. So, yun, buti na, tas we had to sample pa different types of sticker. So much work just to get this barcode that, we were just
I know what you
we couldn't
mean,
afford
because
to buy a barcode machine. So, yun.
because it would already pretty much eat up whatever
Yeah.
minimal revenue you were looking at, in the game.
Yeah.
I even remember, so pag-publish ni QNB, I was going around the different national bookstores. Tapos pag nahuli ko yung isang national bookstore, wala silang codes and verses. Si Fed, wala pa silang codes.
Isa pa
Si
yun.
NBS, wala pa.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have the
They
stock.
don't reorder.
They don't put. They're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
checking if it's
Okay,
displayed.
question.
So,
Fellow local designers, when you enter a store, do you guys rearrange?
Yes.
And put- yes.
I also
Lalagay mo sa
Influence
gitna
sa
yung
engine.
I also hide the memoirs of the dirty politicians. So I put our games on top of those. That's full of lies. I'm gonna put that on the bottom shelf and then cover it with dark. So yeah.
Yeah, so on my end nga, it's always a nice. So yun nga, nahuli na ni Denmark. Yes.
Yeah.
So after I rearrange it, lalabas ko lahat ng mga larong atin. Selfie.
Okay, guilty din ako dyan.
Yun. Kasi minsan talaga parang nasan siya? Tapos makikita mo na sa pinakailalim. Grabe naman. Ang hirap
Tapos
naman.
sila pa. Yun yung
Tapos
mali.
minsan gagawin ko pa kunyari nagbabasa-basa lang ako, hawak ko yung game. Tapos ilalagay ko doon sa hindi ko na
Prominent.
nakukuhanin. Tapos iwan ko doon sa bestseller stack. para na meron siyang coverage.
This is a tip if you go to any something you might not know. So have you ever wondered why, if you go to like a national bookstore or anything, if you ask the sales lady if you can open the thing, they're like, sure, no problem. Then you can just open the book or whatever, go through it and ganon. Most terms kasi are consignment, which means the publisher, the authors, they only get paid once it gets sold. So if there are display copies that are open that no one buys kasi sira-sira na yung pages and stuff like that, the
National
publishers,
doesn't pay for that.
National doesn't pay for that. That's at the cost of the publishers. So you might think, oh, it's not a big deal. It kinda is. So yeah, just if there's one display unit, wag na kayong magbukas ng iba. So ayun, and that's a cost that, for example, kami, we didn't take that into consideration nung una. Di namin alam. We thought, okay, everything that we put on the shelf, sana mabili. Pero some will really not get bought kasi sira-sira na tinignan ng mga tao, punit-punit na.
Yep.
So,
That's a problem talaga with National Bookstore, because they don't really have an interest to take care of the merchandise. And you can't really blame them. And diba, ang daming laman ng National eh. So
I think generally naman, for most of the time, they keep it well naman. It's just that, especially for National Bookstore, medyo hindi pa normal yung binubuksan siya eh. Pero sa fully booked, alam ko ganun eh. Okay lang talaga, nakakapagbasa ka talaga dun eh. So, hindi ko lang alam kung siguro man hindi nila pinapayagan sa games, no? Kasi, pag binuksan nila yung game.
That's the reason why games are shrink wrapped. It's because mas nakakahiyang buksan yung shrink.
Okay, gotcha. Kasi like it doesn't come back, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Pero
say
the condition of some of the board games.
Alfredo. Hi, Alfredo.
Hello.
And then also Sir Tonichi.
Saka, the worst is yung sira-sira yung game sa shelf kasi tinignan ng mga tao. But in the inventory, may stock, so hindi magre-reorder. But but no one's gonna buy them. So that happens also. You can't sell it because no one's gonna buy it, but they won't also reorder because in their system may stock pa. So
and even yung reorder is not automatic eh. Talagang sometimes you have to prod them. Otherwise, if people aren't looking for the item, they aren't going to reorder it. Lalo na kung wari, kasi when you're talking to these stores na maraming ibang laman, talagang agawan kayo ng shelf space eh. And, which is also something that, I think Balangay learned with Darna. Shelf space is very important. Kaya yung maliit na footprint ng Darna became very problematic dahil ang liit niya. That's why they made that display box, naging booster box eh. Bago pa nagkaroon ng Keyforge. Unang Darna.
The OG Keyforge ng Darna.
That's also
I remember even for D&D, we were taking pictures of shelves and then choosing a color palette that none of the games are using. That's why it's even from afar. At that time QNV you can spot because it was the only like baby blue board game that in existence, nothing else. Of course, in hindsight now, it's like I could have probably done a better artwork and just spruce it up a bit more. But then again, here's the secret, guys. That was designed in PowerPoint, so don't expect much.
And then Azul saw your design and like, you're color scheme.
Yeah, exactly. See? Pero yun. But anyway, going back to our topic. So I think we've kind of illustrated that there's a lot of layers and a lot of people involved in this hobby of ours. And as consumers, we just see the game on shelf. Joel is asking, curious to know, is it easier to sell board games online, Shopee or Lazada versus physical stores?
I'll
have a specific take on that. Here's the thing. Shopee and Lazada sells better for things na alam na ng tao. Like for example, ano ba yung malakas mabenta dyan? Yung mga madaling mapeke. Kasi alam na ng tao kung ano. So yun yung mabenta dyan. Yung nangyari is, let's say, Cards Against Humanity, ngayon, Exploding Kittens, yung mga ganyan. Uh, but for bigger games, I think they're not the best platform, lalo na kung yung game mo kailangan pa ng konting explanation. So that's where a brick and mortar or a physical store comes into, kasi uh, anything na hindi pa siya yung something that you will not Google or search. Sorry, hindi to COVID ah. Uh, so I think it depends on the game. So like for example, right now in this sa pandemic, it's going to be hard for LarongAtin to come up with something and then sell it. Kasi if we just put it online or just rely on put it on a shelf somewhere na ano, hindi, it's not going to sell itself kasi if it's something new, mahirap siya ibenta. And ngayong pandemic nga, what happened is, it's a weird dynamic because globally it said, you know, they're saying that the tabletop industry grew, but what actually happened is yung mga names, yung mga games na evergreen, those were the games that were selling.
Yeah.
While newer games for companies that are smaller who don't have that much reach on online or social media, wala silang clout, they're having a hard time. So you'll see companies like Tasty Minstrel Games and BNB.
AMG,
There's smaller companies that are having hard time. Lalo na ngayon na tumaas yung cost nila with shipping and everything. But the bigger companies who have the marketing machinery and they're all sorted out and they have the evergreen titles, they're doing really well. So ganun yung nangyari. So I think ganun din yung sagot ko rito. Is it easier to sell Shopee and Lazada kung may pangalan na? Pero habang wala pang pangalan, it's not easy to sell there. You actually need people on the ground playing the game first, telling people, oh, this is a good game, before people start searching it online. So it's a nuanced answer. It's not a
it's
yes.
also quite difficult for us. I mean, for Folded Wishes, I think there were maybe a few reviewers that actually reviewed it online.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the reach is also different. But until you have Dice Tower or anyone in that sort of level to review your game, then that's probably the only time you'll have enough eyes to look into the game. Even if the Folded Wishes already had the second print run sa US, it's the traction is actually coming not from online sales. It was actually more coming from retail stores there that actually got to play the game. And nandun yung rebuy. Nandun sila sa, oh, we want more of that game, so we want to request for another set. So I think there's such a there's a diverse way to reach markets in our space right now. You have super big titles like Dune Imperium. You can see them in all of the Lost Ruins of Arnak. You can see them in all of these top 10 or top award-winning games lists. But there are so many other games that are now no longer getting any airtime because there's no more Gen Con. They have to really push their games online. It's hard to get heard. It's really a lot harder to get heard nowadays. So it's a good thing. Like Ruel is doing a lot of these online live playthroughs. So people are getting eyes on games that are not necessarily widely shown or widely played. But that's the challenge now. Multiply that difficulty a few fold here locally, because we're not only competing with the online eyes where this is what's the world is looking at us, that's exciting, and now you have this ito po yung watch list. It's about yeah.
I guess
So,
just to add to
I thought you were about to say we were competing with Axie.
yes, isa pa yun.
Pwede
Yes,
din.
I were about to say something.
Yes.
Just about how, given the pandemic and how people aren't really meeting up to play games, I don't know if one way that the games can reach more people is really having it in an online version like Tabletopia, or kasi BGA has BGA Studio, and for some reason there one of the games in alpha is Luzon Rails, which was a Kickstarter game I think last
Mhm.
year, and it isn't playable yet. But I wonder if, because some people are also, I mean, also have, I guess, a barrier or a learning curve or something to playing on Tabletopia versus like BGA. Well, I guess BGA has a much wider reach. I'm imagining that's why Lost Ruins of Arnak like really reached a lot of people. So I wonder if having your games in Tabletopia and or BGA might like help spread your game somewhat.
It I think for BGA it does help a lot. But BGA has the rule of it has to be a published game first. So you kind of have to like publish and print it first, then try to market it through them kind of setup. Tabletopia, you could craft your game and start, letting people play it before it gets published. It has some sort of prototyping mode. Of course, tabletop
Mhm.
simulator is also the same thing, but tabletop simulator you have to have Steam. But I think
Yes.
it does help. I mean, uh, for Northwood of Will got a lot of traction simply because of playing cards.io, because he
Mhm.
was able to allow a lot of people online to play his game. So I think that's a plus. We
Some
have here
questions.
a question from Ivan.
Okay.
What is evergreen?
These
So
stuff.
evergreens, I think it's a sales term
Mhm.
for something that is always sellable.
Di
Yeah.
nalalas.
Generally, ang category niyan, you will have the gateway games na tinatawag. So, what do you have there? Catan, uh,
Ticket to
Ticket to
Ride,
Ride,
Ticket to Ride, yung mga ganun.
Sushi
Type.
Go.
Splendor, Sushi Go.
So,
Splendor.
those kinds of games.
Pandemic.
And not all gateway games become evergreens. There
Yes.
certain evergreen games need to reach a certain level of popularity with culture in general.
Mhm.
Once they reach that, typically um, the ones that hit the Spiel des Jahres would go almost into an evergreen state for a while,
Not
Yeah.
anymore.
but not
Yeah.
not
Not anymore.
not anymore.
It
But I think
used to
Azul
be.
was
It
like
used to
one of
be.
the benchmarks that I
Mhm.
saw that really had um, a staying power. I think it, before pa nga, the top one won't be super evergreen, but the ones like below it are the
Yeah.
ones
Yep.
raking a lot of
Yep.
On
of
the
uh,
weird years, yeah, yeah. Like
Yes.
ano,
Tinigila
diba?
siya.
Colt Express beat Machikoro, but Machikoro is the more evergreen.
yes,
Sino ba yung
Machikoro
tumalo
is
sa Splendor? Who beat Splendor?
Uh, yeah, Splendor didn't win either. Eh.
I forgot.
Splendor
Like,
definitely outsold the ano.
Yes,
but
yes, yun.
Codenames is an evergreen and one.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
Azul also. Mhm. Yeah.
Yes. So a few more questions. Would reaching out to influencers get help
Um,
to get more exposure for local
Hmm.
games?
yes and no,
Yes.
because in that matrix, adding an influencer would mean adding another person with a cut. So,
Well,
yun.
Well,
Not
100% I think.
necessarily. May mga ano eh. Ito medyo, ay, sorry, Aya.
hindi, go
Oh,
ahead. Go ahead.
sorry. Depende kung anong klaseng influencer, no? Medyo nuanced example yung sa Pawikan Patrol. We got some actual scientists and teachers
Mm.
who are actively promoting the game in the education sector, in the non-profit sector, and but they're not really a huge no. They're not really a huge
They don't
segment.
have millions of followers in TikTok.
Mm.
Yes, got
Yeah.
it.
So
Yeah.
well, they're popular in our specific sector because they think that this game is meant for that sector.
Mm.
So that's where it thrives.
Yeah, I think I mean a lot of the LarongAtin games are trying to also leverage nga, di ba, IPs
Mhm.
and celebrity sort of affiliation. So from Darna to Bagani. So
True
there
but wrong.
you have that sort of celebrity reach. Pero
Mhm.
syempre, that's also talking to a different set of markets. So it's
Yes.
not necessarily the core market that we are all familiar with. It's probably new people, new markets that we're trying to also again expand to. So that's also using influencers in a different um, space. Yun. Pero in
Um,
terms of alam ko si Sir Freddy actively looking for
Yeah.
influencers.
I- I'm I'm really looking for genuine influencers. If may celebrity tayo dito sa Pilipinas that's really into tabletop, 'di ba? Uh,
Yeah.
Send them my way.
Yes.
I
Agree.
think
But
Agree.
it has to be
I just
genuine kasi. It has to be real.
Oo.
It can't be
Yeah.
somebody na, oy, sikat siya, tapos, but the person doesn't really care about tabletop games. It's not gonna look fake.
Yeah.
So, I really like to work with somebody na talagang into it. Di ba? So, yun yung importante. Yun naman kasi talaga yung key ng influencer eh. Hindi siya kasi endorser na parang, oy, da,
Exactly. An influencer
kailangan,
has to be they already are driving
mm,
people to a certain hobby or passion that they are really into, and then they just uh, yun daw, parang example nila, padala daw tayo ng ano kay Vin Diesel. So, parang katulad nun, parang, although it's pretty cool, it still is interesting, but compare the reaction to him versus our favorite for Warhammer, Superman, uh,
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill, his passion for tabletop miniatures is just like so pure that
Mm.
when people have interviews with him and they make a mistake of asking about it, is yung tangent
Yeah.
niya parang, okay,
Wala, full nerd mode na
are
siya.
are
Yeah,
you
yung
sit down,
latest niya is yung ano eh, 'di ba? Yung chandelier. I can't help but that chandelier looks like the Black Fortress. And Black
Last,
Fortress is it's a Warhammer 40K thing. And if you're not into Warhammer 40K, you wouldn't even know what the heck Mark
yes,
Camill's talking about, but he'll bring that into that interview. And
yeah,
yung makikita mo yun sa Instagram niya eh. He'll bring it up na meron siyang pinipaint, may mga ganon. Tapos yung picture niya makikita mo may libro ng Warhammer. So ganun yung natural na yun yung
yeah.
natural na
So
influencer.
hopefully, the more we invite and share this
Uh-huh.
sort of stream, and as we teach more people, I think naman eventually we'll be able to grow our community where we would also have fellow gamers who are possibly celebrities that will get into this, and then naturally na yun na mangyayari.
gusto ko lang
Um,
to backtrack kasi we're talking about influencers to potentially grow the local market, I think. Na maybe people lang then don't see why we need to grow the market in the sense that
Yeah.
the core market is really not enough. I mean, we don't have enough gamers in the Philippines to like buy all of like say 1,000 or 2,000 print run, the minimum for a printer to do a print run.
yeah, I
So
always give this parang example for people. Okay, um, how many copies of Azul do you think sold in the Philippines? Do you think there's 5,000? People would say less than 1,000. So now,
Kasama
if
yung mga
that's the
peke.
case, and you are trying to print a game that has an MOQ of 2,000 to 5,000 to 10,000, how do you now print a game
dispose.
at that same level? Because you know it's not gonna sell here because there's not enough market yet. So and you can even see, and it's not a bad thing. It just means that the industry is young. There's
Uh-huh.
still a lot of us, at least nga ngayon. I mean, amazingly, everyone who's on stream right now, there's 22, 25 of us. Guys, that's pretty amazing. And when variable play started, we always said nobody's watching because really nobody was watching. It was just us. But now that people are on stream, it's amazing. And I think eventually, when there's like 100 here, to 500 here,
Yeah.
then it also reflects that there's more and more content creators. Gaming Library also did their stream a while ago. Dwayne did mention Folded Wishes, and um, Cardboard Bus did a stream yesterday. So there are so many. Fred from PRE Games are creating a lot of content. So I think there's a lot of people trying to really grow and increase the market. But here we wanted to sort of just give you guys a glimpse. What are all the steps? Medyo nag kung saan na tayo nakarating. But what are all the steps it takes for us to get a game? And I think just with the comments of people on stream, people are really just passionate about trying to get more people into the hobby. So I think the one way that you guys can help definitely is please like, share, and subscribe, and share the hobby with more people. Whether it's if you guys got to watch our previous stream, Pilipintados, they did a lot of painting, um, tutorials, miniatures, tabletop RPGs, and of course, if you guys are into designing games or looking at local creation games, then you can join us. And across the week, so Variable Play has a lot of shows that runs throughout the week, actually throughout the month now. We have a lot of contributors. Pinoy Meeple, for example, is making such really fun episodes. And you guys should be watching that. Anything else, guys, to add for like the
Well,
journey of gamers, and sort of what is your takeaway for this show?
Ako, I just want to comment then that in the graph that we shared, I don't think we even covered half of it. We just
yes.
covered the side that is near the gamers, which is like
Mhm.
retail, distribution. We didn't even cover the internal development and stuff. So just
I
to
wasn't even also able to put reviewers,
ayun
content
pa, content
creators, all of that
creators,
angle there that was also not part of that scope.
the proofreaders, the one writing the manual, the artists, the graphic designers. So just show how complex and how many people are involved. Like in an hour, we didn't even cover half of the people. So yun. There's the lawyers for licensing. And
Yes, isa pa yan.
so many
admin.
people, the admin, the
IT,
finance
and then
people, to compute checking the taxes and whatever. So many people. Yeah.
masakit na ulo ni Nico.
The shipping, the person who puts who has to load the boxes and make sure the boxes don't like squish the other stuff, the other boxes.
Yes.
Lumalabas yung pagka-introvert ni Nico, he doesn't like dealing with people.
Even from
The
brokerage,
person has to collect go and invoice and collect the payments from the retailers and track the inventory and then you're the one who has to make the graphics for the website and upload the rule books and put it on the website and manage social media and
Nagpi-PTSD na si Nico. Sobrang PTSD na to. You did it all, Nico.
Ayan,
You did
ayan,
it all.
They're there.
the legal
Kalma mo si Nico.
copywriting, the trademarking,
So just like, and again, we're not here complaining. It's really more of like it was also an amazing shock and at the same time awe for us to sort of learn how large this world is and how small we are, how tiny our operation is as compared to even Asmodee. I could just imagine the FFG's operating team, like diba, they decided, oh, I want to have my legacy, I want TI3, make me TI3, like just that sheer power of just, okay guys, design me TI3. It's like, what? I can't imagine how that would work.
And I guess I just want to condense it now into, there's the business aspect of it. So that's a lot of what Nico and Sir Freddy talked about. And there's also the artistic aspect of it, wherein board games are really a multidisciplinary thing in the sense that, yes, it is a game, it is a design, but then there's the art. So there's the visual aspect, there's the user experience, because you can't like play a game if masyado siyang cluttered tignan, dapat maganda yung layout ng cards, dapat naiintindihan yung manual. So, may ganong aspect of user experience and learning and manual. How do you teach it? Because people can't play a game if they don't know how to play it. So, and yun nga, all the iterations and the playtesting, it's so collaborative. You're really gonna meet lots of different people with different expertise. So, yun, I guess it's also an appreciation of how complex and how collaborative the medium of board games are.
Yes, agree. And of course there are superstars like Ryan Lockett who kind of does his own thing from art to ano. I mean, Bianca who did art that also got kickstarted and funded quite big, diba? So she did the art and the game and the website design and also a little bit of the coding for the art generator for scenario generators na. So there are those people that can do all of those. Pero
I hate
actually,
those
pag
people.
kinausap ko rin naman, pagod din talaga. Sa totoo lang, pagod din.
Sana
Kasi
all,
talagang
di ba?
marami talagang kailangan gawin. How about you, Mikey? Before we head
So,
off?
yeah, I'll just dovetail into what I was saying about the artistic side. No? Because really, when I started designing games, it was really for the love of it, no? For the love of the art. Parang for me, I will always look at game design first and foremost as an art. No? That's why the book is called The Art of Game Design. But next is not even the business side, but more on the culture. And I think that's what we can all focus on. It started with us, but we know for sure that there's lots of you watching been who are eager to attempt, no, who want to attempt game design. And I think it would really help if we could all just focus on that aspect first. No? Just being brave in getting your game out there, building a culture of creativity, and not being afraid to share ideas because that's how we cultivate, so to speak.
Yeah.
No, that's where the talent will come from, and then maybe later, one of us will hit it big. No, but it starts with first having that culture. Maybe that's the one we can try to sell first. No, the creative culture.
How about you, Sir Freddy? What's your takeaway
We're
from our
not
show?
here. We're not here to discourage people from doing what we're doing.
Yes.
We just we basically wanted to do this episode to set people's expectations. That it's not glamorous and it's not it's not easy, and we just don't want people to have wrong ideas of what this is. But if you're passionate about it, continue doing it. I wouldn't, yun nga kanina napag-usapan na rin, I wouldn't say na, don't quit your day. I wouldn't say that you should quit your day jobs. Don't quit your day job.
Yes.
Uh,
Please.
If you
do
don't
this on
have
the
one, find
side.
one.
Work on this as a passion project. If you get a publisher, it's good. If you don't, then if it's something that you still enjoy doing, then go ahead, do it. Hindi naman sukatan yung na-publish ka eh. Hindi
Yes.
yun eh.
Yes.
As long as you're doing this as a passion project and you're enjoying what you're doing, and I think it's worthwhile to do. Diba? So don't get discouraged. Baka kanina yun na nakita mo, nag-rant na si Nico eh. Baka yung mga tao, parang, ay, ako, ayoko na.
That was out of 4 years.
I,
But-
yeah, we forgot the
Yeah.
pandemic.
No, I mean, and
It's hard.
I feel
It's hard.
yeah, I understand and yan. Ito pa, from Marks, get a day job before delving into tabletop game
Yes.
design.
Yes.
Yep.
Yan.
Yes.
Pero ano naman, I always tell the fellow designers, it's not like you're losing out in terms of skills. Everything that you're learning here, creative thinking, having an analytical
Empathy.
mind, problem solving,
Introspection. Sorry, go.
the skills on graphic design, right? You sort of self teach, and all of those you can pivot. And there are so many other applications. Actually, I think Mikey, Nico, you guys are also seeing all the other industries where you could take your game design skills and actually You can actually apply it on corporate or apply it on NGOs or apply it on there's other fields, gamification, designing game experiences. So you can sort of generate revenue there and then keep coming back to your passion. And hopefully that, keeps you into a sustainable loop. Yun naman ang habol natin. So
Si Mark
that's
may words of wisdom din.
skills you learn in the office can also be used in the game design and production process. Yes, agree. Working
Tama
with
ba dyan yung
people.
ginagamit yung office printer? Ganun.
Wait, si
Ay, parang may
Tonichi,
kilala akong
kinakating
ganun,
mag-design, no?
Quiet tayo.
Ton.
And I think there was a
Ton,
mention in the comments earlier rin about print and play. So, yun, there are different avenues naman din of getting your game out and accessible to people.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yun, like, yun nga, Tabletopia or print and play. So, don't think that there's just this one way of like having it published in stores everywhere for you to actually get people to play your game.
Yeah, and designing games is just really fun. You can enjoy
Sabi
it the
nga ni
way
Fred.
painters do it. Or you paint because it's fun, you draw because it's fun.
Doon daw
It's
siya
fun.
natutong
It's fun.
And Tonichi
Designing is fun.
is interested in looking back into his designs. Uy.
Yeah, man.
Sir.
Tara. Go for it.
Pub
Tabletopia tayo.
Unpub.
G
So
tayo
yun po.
dyan.
Thank you very much. We could probably go on about this for hours and hours, but we don't want to keep you guys up too late. Thank you everyone for joining. Super thank you for everyone who joined us today. It's such a pleasure to always have you guys share your wisdom and experience to our fellow gamers and fellow designers, aspiring designers and published designers out there. Hopefully, this episode helped you guys out, give you a little bit of clarity, a glimpse. It's not a complete picture. It's not. Don't use it as a benchmark, but at least it gives you an idea of how the industry kind of works. At least in some parts, some of the layers, and hopefully, gives you an appreciation of the world that we are in terms of hobby gaming. All right. Until next time, everyone. Thank you very much for joining.
Good night.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Good night. Thank you for
Happy
watching.
Wednesday.
Everyone,
Next month. Next month ulit.
Next month po ulit.
Next month.
That's Unpub is on August 14, I think. So if anyone's interested, you can pass by.
Yes. Please look up the Unpub PH Facebook group page. There is a LarongAtin page. There's also the Unpub Facebook group. You guys can join that, and you can also message there if you guys want to join the chat. The chat is normally where they would put the schedules for the online playtests and other events that we run in Unpub. So hope to see you guys there. Until next time, bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.